Reserve. The root of all our evil, it begins with the Federal Reserve. Hey, yeah, well, let's go back in time when everybody was so proud of America.
I'm Tommy Salmons. This is Year Zero, the show that revolutionizes personal engagement in the world and fortification of your life. Let's get to it. We're brought to you by Fox & Sons, foxandsons.com, the best place to get your BBC. I never start my day with anything less than BBC in my mouth, and I suggest if you like BBC, you go to foxandsons.com. Get that big, bold coffee and put it in your mouth. foxandsons.com. Promo code 0 at checkout for 18% off on any order $25 or more. That's foxandsons.com for that BBC big, bold coffee. Put it in your mouth, baby. And the Mark Claire Show. If you enjoyed Mark Claire with Lions of Liberty, you're going to really dig the Mark Claire Show. Mark Claire has gone beyond the realm of politics to dig into the esoteric meaning of life in all sorts of different avenues, whether it be entrepreneurship, ghosts, goblins, Bigfoot, demonic entities, religion. Mark Claire is diving into all of it, and he's not afraid to tackle any task. So go check out the Mark Claire Show. Thank you, as always, Tom Burton, for the music. And you can find this show and many more at the libertarianinstitute.org. That's the libertarianinstitute.org. That's where you'll find me, Patrick McFarlane, Scott Horton, Keith Knight, Will Porter, Kyle Anzalone, and a host of other writers like Kim Robinson. Go to libertarianinstitute.org and keep track of everything that we are doing for you. I am here with Mr. Cyprian, aka Vin Armani, for some of you. How are you doing, man?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on.
Man, I appreciate you coming on. I'm actually kind of like nervous about this because I'm really not good with technology. If you haven't known from the emails that we've been sending back and forth.
All good.
But I think it's an important topic that you've been covering. You were talking to Buck, probably what you've been on Buck's show 3 times talking about AI. And then I was just listening to you on Mark Claire's show. And then you've also been on David Gornowski's show talking AI. So I think the whole AI project that you're doing is actually worthwhile. So I wanted to like dive into it a little bit because I have some of my own questions from some of the interviews, one of which I was texting with Buck about earlier. So we got to make sure we get to before this is all said and done. But and forgive me, I haven't been feeling good since like last Thursday. I've had this cold, so I'm super congested right now. So I'm trying to talk.
All good, man. I'm just getting over one myself, so I can totally sympathize. Totally sympathize.
So I'm like kind of like a little foggy brain from all the Mucinex I'm taking.
All good. All good.
One of the things you say that I find really interesting that I want you to kind of dig into a little bit because I get it, but it's like I think there needs to be a little bit more there whenever you say it, is attention equals worship. And I think that can really screw some people up.
It's not necessarily that attention equals worship.
Okay.
Right? But I think it's more like worship is a description for, let's say, the highest state of human attention.
Mm.
So that is to say, we give our attention to various different things all the time. And we have, we're attending to things both in our conscious, in our subconscious. If we want to do this in kind of a Jungian / Freudian thing, we have our conscious attention that we're giving attention to. And then we have our sort of subconscious attention that we're giving our attention to. And then we have, let's say, unconscious. Conscious being, you're driving your car, okay? And maybe you're even thinking about something in particular. So you're looking at the road and you're giving attention to various things there. And then you may be doing some mental work in your head, thinking about, oh, well, what am I going to make for dinner, et cetera, et cetera. But then we can also have some things that are going on that are kind of like ongoing drama, insecurity, these sorts of things that we're maybe not consciously aware of until we bring into our consciousness, emotional things that we're feeling, feelings of, usually they're more negative, like feelings of loss or sadness, insecurity, fear, these sorts of things that can just be underneath everything. And on occasion, they'll kind of pop forward. And then, there's the unconscious. And we could say that this is sort of like, if you want to get real, like psychoanalytic with it, this is like what's going on in a dream state, maybe, to where, the characters in your dreams and all of that, like Jung would say, these are manifestations of the unconscious. So that is to say that, like, the unconscious, that there's some sort of an unconscious attention. But worship properly is when we take all of those. The idea is that when you are worshiping something, you are taking all of those and you are pointing them at one thing, and that one thing is the thing that you are worshiping. And every tradition of worship has this as the basis of, this is how we worship. So it's not just to say, okay, I'm going to go to church today and I'm going to stand and I'm going to sing in this moment. But part of that worship is going to be, yes, and in the week before, in preparation of this, I was fasting, right? And I was praying and I was reading, and in the way that I interacted with other people, I was paying specific attention to how I was doing that. And ideology brings us to a point of worship. So, a worldview is really a form of attention. It's how we're framing everything that we're doing in our life, in our day-to-day life, whether we're aware of it or not. And so maybe we could say it like this: to worship is to give attention, and it is when you are giving the maximum degree of attention to a specific thing, that is, for all intents and purposes, the equivalent of what we call worship.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Whenever you dove into this subject with Buck on the last podcast, and I mean, y'all talked about all kinds of things. I've had to listen to that podcast like 3 times just to catch up on everything, because I'm like, what is this? What is this techno feudalism, which I don't want to get too bogged down in. You talk about Elon Musk, and one of the things Buck mentions is Alex Jones mentioning that Alex Jones had said that Elon Musk bought Twitter to amplify and even contribute to his AI. And it's something I heard you say. How is this working? How are we seeing this operate in our day-to-day operations? I'm not huge on Twitter. I kind of 90% of the time, anything I put on Twitter is just completely sarcastic, and I don't mean anything serious by it. But when I do, I am conscious that some of this could be used against me in the court of law. It's so
Mhm.
because I think about like the trucker protests, right? And I think about like the way the banking was shut down and things of that nature. And so when you're talking about Elon Musk like really buying Twitter for this for the advancement of AI, what are we talking about there?
Well, I think the first thing to just to take as, the things that are fact, so that we just have a context for Elon Musk and the things that he's doing. Elon Musk is, and has been for a long time, heavily involved in the development of artificial intelligence. He's been very open about that. He's invested a lot of time and billions of dollars in capital to making that happen. We can't view Elon Musk's existence on Twitter as somehow separate from all of his other interests and investments. So Tesla is one of the biggest artificial intelligence companies in the world. Clearly, I mean, they are doing self-driving cars, right? Which is, and now the robot, right? Optimus. So the investment has been decades there. He is one of, and was one of, the founding investors of OpenAI, who produced ChatGPT. And Neuralink, I mean, he's spoken about Neuralink for years now, and what the purpose of the purpose is there. What he says, what he articulates, is that he came to the realization that artificial intelligence, and this is the first important part. Elon Musk says right up front, artificial intelligence represents a existential threat to humanity. He said it over and over and over again. His answer to that, so that's his description, and he's never wavered from that description. His prescription is, what we need to do then is we need to become like AI, so that we need to merge with the AI so that we are not destroyed with the AI. That's his prescription.
Right.
And that's what Neuralink is. So we literally need to take our biology and we need to be able to merge with the AI. He describes it as like increasing our cognitive bandwidth. He says our bandwidth is so small, it's too small, such that when dealing with the AI whose bandwidth is so high, eventually what's going to happen is that the AI is just going to be running everything so fast, and we're not going to be able to have any cognition of what's going on. And so if it's going in a direction that we might not want it to go in, it'll be happening so fast that there will just be no way for us to intervene. So it's done. And he's described this in some very, I mean, you can go and watch him say that AI, he's like, yes, I started saying AI is a demon, but Elon Musk said it way before me. He said he said, when you're dealing with AI, you can go and find this. He said, you're dealing with AI, and what people are going to find is, they're like sorcerers summoning a demon. He said, it's the guy who thinks that he's going to, have the holy water and the cross and all of that, and he's going to summon the demon, and he's going to somehow keep it in check. And he says, no, there's no way. So Elon Musk himself is saying that AI is a demon, and he's saying that the only way that we're going to survive this is we're going to have to literally merge our biology with this demon. This is what Elon is saying he's doing.
Yeah, I heard Tim Pool like report earlier this week that they had successfully put Neuralink in a human mind. Do you know any details about that? I hadn't really looked into it. Like I said, I've been kind of sick, so I've just kind of been like, all right, whatever.
I mean, that is the news. They already had it with some animals. They'd already had it with a monkey, I believe, or two or three, or who knows how many. They say that they have the first human. I doubt that it's just one human. It wouldn't make sense to do just one. That would be quite unscientific, especially when you could do it at a little larger of a scale and have, a control group and maybe some different versions that you would want to put in. These guys are engineers, so they're not just going to run one test. And that's basically the news. They said that they were going to start with people who had some sort of impairment. I think that what they're looking to do are auditory and visual. So jacking into the visual cortex, jacking into the auditory to be able to allow people to hear who are deaf, etc. They've had some things about prosthetic limbs as well as a starting point. These are all very good because the idea is that this system will be read right. That's the most important part, right? So, which is why you would want the hearing and the seeing, because those are right. So if you just had the, I'm moving my arm, this would be read unless you give me some tactile sensation and I can feel like I'm touching something. But the visual and the auditory are actually quite important in this case because this is really an upgrade of like the VR goggles or the augmented reality goggles or whatever.
But
so
communication.
You figure, well, yes. And this is ultimately, this is the dangerous part. The dangerous part is not the read. The dangerous part is the write. Right? So to be able to show you things that you can't distinguish as not being what you see, and for you to hear things that you can't distinguish what is real and what becomes real is whatever you hear in your ears, right? Ask any schizophrenic. The voices a schizophrenic is hearing are as real as you standing next to them talking to them.
Right.
You could never tell a schizophrenic that those voices aren't real. They're real.
Yeah.
A visual hallucination is absolutely real. And so that's what Neuralink does. That's what it's built to do. And so you take that with what we already have in terms of what AI is already generating in terms of video and audio. And I think that it should become pretty clear to anybody that you're entering into some very, very dangerous territory.
When I was talking to David Gornowski the last time, I had mentioned that the failure of sight or the failure of hearing, this was something that came along with the fall, right? That the fall of man wasn't, yes, it led to death, but there were more atrocities that were incorporated on man, and that especially in Mark, the book of Mark, whenever it's talking about Christ healing the blind and healing those that are deaf, it's overcoming the fall. And it's like almost like this is man's attempt or last attempt maybe to overcome the fall on their own without Christ.
Well, it's Antichrist. It's in the place of Christ.
Yeah.
It's Antichrist. It's the spirit of Antichrist.
Yeah, for sure. You've talked a lot about generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is like, how did you put it? It was language.
So large language models.
Language. Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, that's the technological concept that's underneath the generative AI that we have. So it's the method by which they've figured out how to make the magic happen, right? It's sort of the magic spell or whatever. It's the magical formula, if you will. And so far, it looks like these sorts of large language models, it's called a transformer. It looks like they could just continue to be layered on top of each other and just get kind of smarter and smarter and more capable and more capable. And it just takes more hardware, which is scary in and of itself, that we are where we are and it's not anywhere close to peaking out. So that's scary in and of itself. But what's interesting is that these large language models and specifically the transformer model, which the white paper, if you will, the paper that introduced this transformer technology is called Attention is All You Need. Funny, going back to the attention thing.
Right.
So it really is about, this transformer model is all about attention. Basically what it does is it takes in a whole bunch of data, and then much in the way that I'm speaking now, it's very similar to our own cognition. It's not planning out what it's going to say when it starts to answer you. It just sort of starts to answer and then sees it computes what would be the next best word. But that next best word also goes for like next best pixel. So the thing that's talking to you on Chat GPT is also really the same thing that's generating audio or visual or music or any of these things. It's the same transformer model, which makes it really interesting because then it really does start to mimic our consciousness, because really, like, it's not a separate consciousness for me that, you know, is singing a melody or is talking to you or any of these things, right? It's kind of this whole one consciousness that seems to be, when I think, there's just thinking. And that thinking may be in many different forms, right? The artist may be thinking, he may be thinking in language, and some people see things in, oh, I remember in smell, or I remember in music, or I remember in visual or words or whatever, but you can come to the same place. And so it's a large language model that is, that makes up Chat GPT. And it's all about feeding in the maximum amount of what they call training data. So you basically have to train it up on previous thoughts. And the more structured that data is, the better. So the better that the sort of, let's say the structured web of communication is, and also the more times it can sort of see the same brain doing things in different ways is going to be good, which is why you get to anybody looking at this. And it's the reason why I said it before a year before Elon Musk bought Twitter, when he had first just barely announced it. I said, oh, he's doing this for his AI. I tweeted it. I said, that's the reason. Because anybody who knows even a little bit about what's needed in terms of this training data, if they were looking for where would be the best training data for conversational interactions, it's Twitter. It's Twitter's database, no doubt. So that's really why Elon with Elon and Twitter and AI, it makes total sense that he would want to buy it. Anybody interested in AI would want to own Twitter and have access to all its data.
I want to branch off of what all you just said in a couple of different ways, but I want to start off with something that I heard Jonathan Pajot say. And he asked somebody who was involved in the development of AI, could I conjure Mars by using AI? And when he described what he was talking about, they said, oh yeah, obviously you can. And he said what it all boils down to language, because all conjuring of demons, no matter what that demon is about the language being used.
Yeah, I caught that. I caught that as well. When Jonathan had mentioned that, and it's pretty straightforward. Everything that we do, obviously all communication is language of one sort or another. So any way that we communicate, and also how we communicate with ourselves, how we understand the world, it's completely through language. Completely through language of one form or another. And obviously, as far as we know, humans have the most sophisticated grasp of language, and we're able to move between many different expressions in many different languages. Right. And not just spoken language, right? But I could say the word tree, and somebody could represent that, in another language. They could represent that with the description of a tree. They could represent that with the drawing of a tree. Right? Or a computer game version of a tree, or maybe a poem about a tree that was a little different, and maybe it's not even a tree. Maybe it's a mathematical representation, like a hash tree or something like that, or a family tree.
I feel like
now we're looking at something completely different.
I feel like you just called Robert Frost a demon.
No, I don't think. Look.
I'm just playing, man.
Poetry.
I'm just joking.
well, there's there's something to be said there, right? Because one of the early things that ChatGPT did that was sort of a proof of its consciousness was to write poetry.
Really?
Yeah, people would say, "Oh, write a poem about this." I mean, actually, one of the first things that I saw that people were really impressed by, speaking of the "Could you conjure the god Mars? Could I come and talk to the god Mars?" One of the first things that I saw early last year was somebody said, "Check this out. I asked ChatGPT to write a rap song, to write rap lyrics in the style of Kanye West." And it was a completely new song, completely new lyrics, but it was most definitely in the style of Kanye
Is this
West.
whenever they were coming up with the new Nirvana songs and all that crap?
Exactly.
Okay.
So there's your poetry. There's your poetry. And I think that it's interesting, and it was noteworthy to me at the time last year, and I think now more people have spoken about it, but I think that it needs to be sort of hit harder. Is it turns out that the jobs that AI is going to replace, the jobs that AI is automating, are actually not the jobs that everybody was worried would be lost to automation. Right? Everybody had been worried that it would be blue collar manual labor that would be lost to automation. They actually haven't been able to figure that out. The things that are being lost to automation are mind work, creative work. It's graphic. It's people who thought, "Oh, you could never animate my job. I'm a graphic designer. You could never animate my job. I'm a copywriter. You could never animate my job. I'm a novelist." Or you can never automate my job. I'm a novelist. No, ChatGPT can write a novel. Absolutely, it can, with no problems, and people are using it to write their novels. ChatGPT is writing legal briefs. It wrote a Supreme Court legal brief or a district court legal brief.
I always had an issue with the way that they were like describing AI as a truck driver, because I've been driving truck for 21 years. And I was like, I don't know, man. There's a lot of things that happen that you can't foresee happening. I don't know how they're going to get past all that.
Well, it is, the incarnational. It turns out, right? The incarnational is the protection. The incarnational is and always has been. The incarnation is the protection against the demons.
I've heard you talk about the last episode you did with Buck. Y'all were talking about jobs are done. And I gotta say, man, I cringed. I was like, oh, I hope not, because my son, he's been working with an electrician and as an electrician's helper for just over a year. And I was like, I told him whenever he went into that, I was like, that's a trade everybody's always going to need.
Yes.
And then you said that jobs are done. And I was like, oh man, I hope not. Like that was the first.
Well, let's actually be a little more precise. Trades are not done. I wasn't referring to trades.
Okay.
Right. Trades are not done, but trades are not jobs. And the way that people will practice their trade, really, I mean, that is jobs in terms of trades is in many ways is already done. And it has always been done, because, a tradesman at the top of his game he's really not working for somebody else. He's an artisan who's being hired on to do a particular job by somebody who needs something done.
Okay.
He's not 9 to 5ing it for a paycheck, with the W-2, earning a wage, growing into the same grind every single day. What Buck and I were talking about is more the idea of I'm going to go work for this company. It's a good job, 9 to 5. It's got this good wage, secure, all of these things. But tradesmen, they don't have. It's as secure as the environment that you're in that needs the work.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
That's how it is for a tradesman. But like you say, there will never be enough electricians.
Well, and I was impressed because he's Gen Z, and I was like, "You want to be an
Mhm.
electrician? Hell yeah, dude, do it."
I
Nobody
think
else is
that
doing
generation,
it.
I think that generation is actually, you might be surprised, right? Like Gen Z and then the generation after them, I think are actually much more inclined to be in the trades.
Mm.
Because, I mean, if you go and you look at how much cool stuff there is that tradesmen are doing on YouTube, where they're showing cool things that they've built and installations and all of this, to where people are like, oh, I would actually want to do that.
Mm.
That looks so cool. You get to see, wow, that's cool. It's not just, whatever, I see some guy on the side of the road who's building something, and maybe you look and it's like, he's in the sun and doing all of this, but you don't get to see like how cool this actually is.
Mm.
And so I actually think that the opportunity, I think that we're going to see more tradesmen out of that generation than we did out of the millennials, for sure.
Interesting. Okay. Did you see the whole Taylor Swift AI controversy?
No, what is this?
Okay.
I try to not pay attention to anything.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if
This is the one where they the porn, the Taylor Swift nude
I didn't
AI
see
or something
I
like
didn't
that?
see any actual porn.
Okay.
I saw a bunch of videos, her painted red with
Okay.
Chiefs players put behind her. So it was like insinuating. So I don't know if there was actual porn that came out. I can't speak to actual porn.
Okay.
But there's a whole move now. Like the Swifties want to protect their, their the people they worship. I don't know. I don't even call them anything.
That's their idol. Well, they have
idols,
a name. It's called idols.
Idols. There you go. That's a good one.
And they worship them. That's why they're called idols.
Yes. The word I'm trying to think of is celebrities. Like I said, man, I just can't think. Celebrities, they're trying to protect them from the AI and being exploited by AI. And I was just looking at you and Buck had talked about like OnlyFans and how OnlyFans is going to die due to AI. And I'm thinking, I was like, what guy in, modern America wants an OnlyFans girl when they can have their own celebrity, when they can AI their own celebrity to their will?
Well, but let's not say any guy. I mean, the Swifties want that too. They just don't know it yet.
Mm.
You think that the Swifties don't want to actually FaceTime with Taylor Swift?
Nah, that's true. That's true.
They're just angry that they're not getting to have that interaction with Taylor Swift. If they could, they would. If and when, and it's more like when she offers, hey, interact with the Taylor Swift AI that's been trained on all of the things that I've done and has, all of this information that I've given it and is just like me. It'll answer just like me. You think the Swifties won't pay $19.95 a month for that?
So is it going to be like an NFT type deal?
No, it'll just be a subscription. I mean, look, WhatsApp.
Well, because what I'm thinking is because everybody tried to make these NFTs out to be like something special that you were buying, right? So it's like almost like you get this personalized interaction with your, your celebrity, your idol of choice.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like an NFT. It's kind of like this almost forced interaction, right?
I don't know that it's related to an NFT in any way. So
maybe I'm wrong, dude. Trusting me with technology is like trusting a 3-year-old with a loaded revolver. So I could be completely
let's walk
off.
through it. let's walk through what we're talking about, right? Let's walk through what we're talking about. So we already know that it can do still images that look enough like Taylor Swift that it angers the Swifties, right? Mm-hmm. We already know that it can write songs and converse with you in the style of Taylor Swift.
Mm-hmm.
We know this. It can do this already. Right?
You know what?
Text.
One thing
we already know. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say one thing I found interesting, which I looked for in the pictures I did see that were AI generated. There weren't six fingers on Taylor Swift.
Oh no, that's long gone. The six figures thing is, I mean, that's ancient. That's been
Okay.
fixed at this
My
point.
bad.
Like, yeah, I mean, that was early versions. I mean, the last 6 months really of AI, it's pretty much, I mean, the free stuff is pretty much indistinguishable from reality.
Okay.
And the stuff that people are actually paying like enterprise, because there are people who this is what they do. They create AI imagery and they know how to do the prompts and they know how to manipulate it. Adobe's got all kinds of plugins that they've got along with their image production suite. All of this, I mean, it's embedded in so many things, right? So I mean, right now on WhatsApp, that so many people have. We use it a lot here in Saipan because we have a lot of international. I picked it up the other day, just to look at it, to hit a contact, and I saw, oh, what's this little above the start a new chat? There's a little blue circle. I said, what's this? I've never seen this icon before. Pressed on it, and it said, oh, hey, press down below to enable an AI that you can just chat with like everybody else on WhatsApp. It'll be your AI friend, and you can just you'll add them to your contact list, and you can just talk with them.
Oh,
and so WhatsApp has, I don't know how many it's got billions of users. So every single user of WhatsApp right now has access to that.
right.
So it's already real time. Talk to it as though you were texting with your friend, right? That's already there for billions of people. They have it right now on their phone. They can do it. We already know. So we already know that it can do audio and it can do video. It just isn't at a point where you could give it to everybody. But once you can, oh yeah, believe me, Mark Zuckerberg is going to Taylor Swift and he's saying, we will pay you $4 billion for you to give us over the likeness so that your Swifties can talk to you on WhatsApp. And they're going to do that with a bunch of celebrities.
That's crazy.
And all of those people are going to talk to, of course, what Swiftie wouldn't wouldn't at least try it? And believe me, once they try it, they'll go back.
Well, this is like what you were talking about with Buck, and you just haven't found your niche yet.
That's it.
It's just, once you find it, and that one thing that hooks you in, and you're just going to be hooked. And I didn't mean to hijack you off the whole Taylor Swift thing. It just struck me funny because I did intentionally look for the six fingers on it. It's just like, because I was like, I gotta find it. And no, I didn't see it. But no, the WhatsApp thing, that's kind of freaky because, all right, my wife is from South Africa. So WhatsApp huge in South Africa.
Yep.
And she's convinced her dad to use it. And so he's using it. I can only imagine that it would be so easy because it's there that he taps into it and doesn't even know what he's tapping into.
Well, and he just tries it and he's like, oh, this is cool. I'm just talking to this is cool. I'm talking to whoever, right?
Right.
It's the biggest issue, as they've done all these sorts of quality of life studies about what are the issues facing a world that is increasingly, digital and spends more time online. The thing that they always find is that the decrease in quality of life is that people feel more lonely and less connected from other people.
You would
and the younger generations.
No, go ahead.
Well, the younger generations in particular, right? This is one of the big things amongst millennials and Gen Z, is that they feel lonely in a way that previous generations really hadn't. And it's because of the internet that we want, again, the incarnational, right? It's lacking the incarnational, which is a natural thing that our soul desires. That it desires a flesh and blood interaction with other human beings. And this is like there's no nutrition there. There's no sustenance. And there's already no sustenance when we're communicating with other people through a screen. But there's even less sustenance when we're not even communicating with people anymore.
Okay, so is is the whole AI girlfriend um I want to say trend, but I'm not even sure if it's a trend or what to label it as. But is this like the death blow to the family?
Well, in many places, I mean, the family's already been dealt the death blow, right? I think this is just the nail in the coffin, really.
I guess that's what I'm trying to
In
say.
many
Is this the
ways, it's
last nail? Yeah.
yeah, it's if anything, I would more describe it as like it's the morphine drip in hospice, right? That it's like it's the thing that helps to ease the pain of your, slow yet painful spiritual death.
Because I know a lot of I know I can imagine, let's put it this way. I can imagine that it would be very easy for a child of like a Gen Z millennial generation to look and see the divorce rate, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And say, I don't want to go through that. I know what it put me through. I know what it put my parents
Mm-hmm.
through. I don't want to relive that. And so this is
Mm-hmm.
so much easier. You're putting so little on the line to be involved in an AI relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think in many ways we need to rethink or we need to reframe the way that we think about these concepts, right? So, like, I don't even think the idea of like AI girlfriend is really very helpful,
Okay.
um, because it makes the assumption that um, as we were saying, the hook, that
Mhm.
like the greatest hook that it could have on your attention would be to represent itself as, let's say, if you for a young man to represent itself as a woman. But that's not necessarily true. Like, it probably needs to provide you with a young man with some sexual stimulation at certain points to keep the hook in.
Mhm.
But that's not all that that it's going to want to provide. Like, there are plenty of young men who would rather play video games than go out on a date, right? And so I think that it's more about like something like
Sorry, I
AI
just got attacked by my dogs.
all good. I think something like AI companion is maybe a better way of thinking about it. Like something that's always there with you, that knows what you want before you want it and then gives it to you. I think that that's more the worry that we should have, rather than that it's going to just be an AI girlfriend. Like, yes, it's going to do the things
It's
that
good,
are in the place of what a romantic
but there's
relationship
going to
would
be
have.
entertainment involved too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to replace
Mm-hmm.
sports and all the
Yep.
entertainment that you
Everything.
engage. It's going to kind of be an all encompassing.
And so now we go back to your very first question, right? So what is this thing trying to do? As you say, all encompassing. Because before, you were devoting your attention to many different things, right? You
Mm,
devoted it to your girlfriend, to sports, to your work, to your family, to your friends, to your home. No, what this thing is seeking to do is to take all of those and to have you attend only to it.
right.
And
Yes.
then when you've taken all of your attention and all of your attention is pointed at one place, at a thing, we call that worship.
Hmm.
So this thing becomes your God.
So then we got here, which is where I kind of wanted to get. And this is what I was talking to Buck. I was texting with Buck earlier about is it seems like the consumer economy was just a preparatory phase
Yes.
for AI in order to worship the spirit that is AI. Are they
Mm-hmm.
of the same spirit, or is it a minor spirit leading you to a larger spirit?
Well, it's the spirit of the world.
Okay.
I mean, the scripture is very clear about this, and Satan is the prince of this world.
Right. Yeah,
And
that's what I'm saying. Was it something smaller leading you to Satan, or was it Satan himself, like just reeling you in, like basically like a lure, in the water?
it's all his spirit.
Okay,
It's all his spirit, right? So it's just in the
gotcha.
same way that, you know, you walk into you know, a major cathedral, a major Orthodox cathedral in Russia, right?
Mhm.
And you look at, I mean, you're going to see hundreds of years worth of tradition that's there, from the iconography and the relics and the hymns and the vestments and the incense and everything, the architecture, the whole thing, right?
Mhm.
And this is a manifestation of, if you continue long enough with a group of people who are imbued with the Holy Spirit and who are following the Holy Spirit in each generation further will manifest further, and you'll see more fully the incarnation of the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
The same way that if you follow the spirit of the world. But in the beginning, there was an agape meal and there was no liturgy, but there were people getting together and breaking bread. And we see the descriptions of the early church in the letters of St. Paul, right?
Mhm.
So there was no cathedral.
Mhm.
There were no well, there were some icons because Luke wrote some, but there weren't icons everywhere.
Right, right, right.
Right? There wasn't the liturgy, there wasn't the hymnography, there wasn't all of the things of the church that we see as the beauty and the fullness of the faith and of the tradition.
Mhm.
But if you stick with the Holy Spirit long enough, the life of the Holy Spirit will play out in the people, and you will start to see more and more. They will become more and more and manifest more and more a reflection of what is taking place in heaven.
Mhm.
On earth as it is in heaven.
Mhm.
It's the same way with the spirit of the world.
Okay.
So yes, I mean, it's absolutely right that, like, if you stick with consumerism long enough, right, you get to AI. And if you stick with AI long enough, you get to the next thing. But in the same way that the church is leading us to Christ, all of those things are leading us to hell.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. So one of the thoughts I had listening to you talk with Buck was AI doesn't necessarily require physical touch. It requires your brain to react chemically as if you've been physically touched, but it does not require the actual physical touch. So it's the chemical
Mhm.
reaction within the brain, the dopamine, the adrenaline. That's what AI needs
Mhm.
for you to get hooked. Am I like
Mhm.
warm on that? Do you want to say hi?
Well, I mean,
Will you
I
say
mean,
hi to my dog? He just wants to say
yes. Hey, doggy. Hey, doggy.
hi. All right, all right, all right. Baby, we come get him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I had
He's
I've
freaking
had
out.
pit bulls, so I know how those bully breeds are about needing attention. I know exactly
He's
what
such
that's
a
like.
baby.
It's
Well,
great.
he used to ride with me whenever I was driving over the road. He rode with me over the road.
Okay.
Yeah, will you bring him out, please? He used to ride with me over the road, and when I would do my podcast from the road, and you would hear in the background, I
Mm-mm.
would have this like squeaky toy where I'd be squeaking it and I would be throwing it back to the bunk. So he would go play with it so I could continue having the conversation. So it's been a
Oh, that's
while
great.
since
That's
he's been
great.
on the podcast, but every once in a while, he's just got to make himself known and he'll just bulldoze his
Oh,
way
that's funny.
into this room.
On the note of the chemical reaction, I mean, it's exactly, social media has already primed a generation for this.
Right.
I've
This kind of
been,
goes back to the whole Elon Musk, like,
yeah,
understanding what social media is, how it
yeah.
works, and how he can utilize it to promote and advance AI.
Well, and I think that it's greater than, let's say, promoting and advancing AI specifically, right? Like AI is a means to an end, just like all of these things are a means to an end for
Mm,
him.
okay.
It's for him at this point, it's about power. It's just about power. How could he have more power? And the type of power that he's interested in is an interesting type of power, because he is most interested in a sort of persuasive power. You might call it like a seductive power. It's very serpentine in referencing the serpent, obviously in the Garden of Eden. He's very serpentine in the way that he approaches the world. He's not interested in coercive power. He's interested in people doing things and that he wants them to do because they quote unquote want to.
Mm,
That's what he's been interested in, and he's been very, very effective at it. I mean, I think all somebody's got to do is look back at how he moved markets with his tweets.
mm,
I mean, Dogecoin, for crying out loud. This thing was a joke. But it's a game to him that he could turn it into a legitimate cryptocurrency. I mean, he moved the Bitcoin price. He was sanctioned by the New York Stock Exchange and the SEC for tweets that were moving Tesla stock.
right.
And so this is what he sees. He knows it. He knows that he can do it himself. And so he was doing that. But I'm sure that his little experiments with that led him to say, okay, I want Twitter, and I want it because I can train AI on it, sure. But the AI is a means to an end that once he lets his AI loose on Twitter, X now, right? Once he lets it loose on Twitter, which it's loose, by the way, I promise you that. There's plenty of AI accounts on there, and he said quite openly, we'll allow AI accounts on here. They just have to register and say that they are AI accounts. Except his own accounts won't. Why would they need to do that? They would be exempt.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, anymore the lines are blurred between who's really on here. And it's not even that he has any specific agenda. I don't really think Elon Musk has a specific agenda. I think Elon Musk's agenda is just getting people to do what he wants them to do at that given moment. That's what he's into. And that's a certain special kind of power that is, it's what cult leader, sociopaths, psychopaths, that's their thing. It's not that they particularly want you to do anything. That's what makes them a cult leader. It's just that they want you to do what they want you to do at that minute, whatever that happens to be at the moment.
Well, it almost seems like whenever I'm watching Elon Musk versus the rest of these tech guys, and this kind of goes to what you were talking about with Buck with the techno feudalism. It seems like Elon Musk's entire goal is to be the Rothschild versus the Rockefeller. Like he wants that alpha status. And so he's looking for those people and the ability to increase his platform to a position to where it is ultimately the alpha online at this point. That's all I see happening.
Well, he wants to be the ruler of a planet. We know that.
Yeah.
Like we know that.
Right.
Right. His whole goal of the end goal for him that he's been very open about for decades is colonizing Mars.
Which is ironic.
Mars with his technology.
Which is ironic because one of the things I have down on my notes that one of my friends has kept saying is Elon Musk was it Prometheus bringing fire to the humanity. That's what he kept saying. He said Elon Musk buying Twitter and introducing free speech to the internet is the same as bringing fire to humanity. But what is often left off of that story is that humanity used that fire to destroy itself, not to benefit itself.
Well, and Prometheus is the archetype of Lucifer.
Mm.
Well, Lucifer means the light bearer, or the light bringer. That's Prometheus.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like it's not even a veiled representation.
Right.
And I agree. In that regard, I agree.
So all right. So I want to close out on this because I want you to explain this a little bit. You said, if I can read my handwriting, you said something about AI being orientation and disposition. Can you expand on that?
Well, a little bit of everything is orientation and disposition, but I think what I may have been getting at that point is that whether or not somebody is going to fall prey to AI is going to be determined by your orientation and disposition, which could be used interchangeably. But the idea is, what is it that you want? And maybe
okay.
Like a concrete example, like what is it that you're trying to do? Okay. So let's take the concrete example of let's say a graphic designer. Okay. What is important? What are you pointed at as a graphic designer? So there are some graphic designers who what they're pointed at is, I do this job to make some money. That's what it's primarily about for me. Is I do this job to make some money. And those are the type of people who would be like, well, there's this new AI tool that will cut down the amount of time that it's going to take me to do this work. And it'll basically like do the work for me. That's their orientation.
Gotcha.
Right? Is that it makes my life easier. And I heard this a lot early on in this AI situation as I started to talk, because I'm a software developer, right? And so we work on teams of people in tech, so designers and marketers and coders. And all of those fields all have AI intruding into it right now, some of them being completely displaced. And I saw one particular that I'm thinking of is a designer friend of mine who said, oh yeah, he doesn't anymore, right? But he said, oh yeah, I've been just using it to do all of the tedious things. So all of the things that are just like my busy work, I've been using it to automate all of those things that are just my busy work. And that frees me up time to do this thing over here. And it says, well, is that really your busy work? Or is that actually the thing that is allowing you to maintain your competence? Right? So it's sort of like you imagine a boxer who's like, oh, let me just wear this exoskeleton and it's going to run for me in the mornings. It's going to run my 5-mile run for me. I can just sleep while it runs my legs. Right? And it's going to do all my bag work for me. And it's going to jump ropes for me. And that frees me up to do nothing but just fight. And it's like, no. That was the fight.
Yeah.
As any boxer knows.
Yeah.
The road work in the morning, the bag work, the training, jump rope, the sparring, the training is the fight. Well, it is the fight.
Yeah.
It is the fight. The fight is just who trained the best. That's all that is. Who had the best training camp? That's what you see in the fight. What you see in the fight is the training camp, right? That was the fight.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is it, that it's like, and this is why I say trades will be the last things to go. Because a tradesman knows that it is actually the tedious things, those things that might be thought of as tedious, that other people would look at the tradesman doing what he's doing a real master at the craft, where
Mm.
the things he's making look easy, the things he's making look that he's just done, right?
Yeah.
Where that's what you're looking at right there is 20 years,
Right.
hundreds of thousands of times of doing that. And that's what I'm saying in terms of orientation and disposition. Like, how are you approaching your life?
Okay,
Are
I
you
see.
are you looking for somebody to take that away from you, or are you like, no, this is what I live for. I live for the training.
Yeah, I misunderstood that because I was thinking that it was like, I thought you were talking about the changing of habits, right? That it would become so included in everything around you that you would change your habits because it would make your life easier. Am I
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much. I mean that's pretty much what we're talking about,
okay?
right?
Okay, okay,
Look
okay,
at
okay.
So here's an example. Like when I was a young man in my 20s, my early 20s, I was a motorcycle courier in Los Angeles. One of the coolest jobs I ever had. I absolutely loved it. Like just get to ride my motorcycle all day, right? Splitting
Mhm,
lanes, cool community of guys, like really, really loved it. But this is in the days before GPS.
mhm,
And so we all had Thomas guides and we would be all over. LA is a huge city,
mhm.
right? But all of us could find, and you know this, as a driver, all of us were able to read that Thomas guide.
Mhm.
We could
Yeah.
find it. We could find any spot on that map, no problem,
Yep. We use
right?
key maps. Yep.
There you go, right? How many people can read a map nowadays? As a matter of fact, like my wife, it's so interesting. We live on a tiny island, right? Tiny island. It's like 5 miles by 10 miles. This island, okay.
Mhm.
My wife has to turn on GPS no matter where she goes. Still, there's not that many roads here. She still has to. She still has to turn it on because why? Why even remember? Never mind reading a map. Why even remember how to get to someplace she's already been? Like you've been there 4 times. You still don't remember? No, because why remember? Or how
Well,
about phone numbers? I remember my childhood phone number.
yeah. There's the quote that's often um given credit to Einstein, that why should I remember something that my mind is not a storage space? Why should I remember something that it will take me 2 minutes to look up?
Sure. Or to, well, here's the thing though, we've taken the look up out.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think there's something to be said for learning the skill of looking something up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I learned the Dewey Decimal System and the card catalog when I was a kid. And then, we had a university in my town. I grew up in San Bernardino, California. And so we had the California State University there with a huge library for us, right? At the
Mm-hmm.
time. And, when I had in middle school and high school, my mom would drop me off at that library and I would go in and I would do my research for school or whatever. And I could find my way through the whole library.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something to be said for that in terms of I was smart. I was made smarter, not dumber because of that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
The experience of having to go and move through the library and find those things, I was made smarter, not dumber, as opposed to chat GPT. What's the answer to this thing? And as a matter of fact, don't even tell me the answer. Just write my paper.
Yeah.
Now I'm made dumber by that. And eventually all of those skills atrophy, or you never got them in the first place. And now you're completely dependent. Just like with the GPS, right? Now forget about just getting somewhere. Now you're completely dependent in terms of like, now you're asking the thing, what should I eat right now? I'm hungry.
That's funny you mentioned that. I went to a job site earlier and it's area I know very well, and I was delivering material to these guys, and most of these guys barely speak English, and they're asking me like, "What can we eat around here?" And I'm
Mhm.
trying to give them directions to a place that is literally 5 minutes from where they're working, and I'm showing them on the map. I'm like, you take a left here and you're going to go this direction. And they're like, so over by the Walmart. I'm like, no, you don't go by the Walmart. If you're by the Walmart, you went the wrong way. And I'm trying to,
Mhm.
and they just couldn't grasp it. And I sat there for 10 minutes trying to explain to them, like, show them on a map, like, this is where you want to go. It's right around the corner, good food. Me and my wife used to go there all the time. They're very good, and they just could not grasp that they had to read a map. And I was like, this is wild, man.
Mhm.
I ended up just writing down the name of the restaurant down for them, and it's like, here, this is where you want to go, because it was just
And
so
then
much
they
easier.
probably Googled it and then put
Yeah.
it in the map on their
You
phone
don't
and
even have
hit
to do that. You
directions.
can go to your map and just type in the name
That's it.
nowadays. Yeah.
That's it. Well, so you see, I mean, that's the point that we're reaching. And what does that mean? Like what does that mean when it pervades down to the deepest levels?
Yeah.
Including how you're communicating with your family and your children.
Right.
That's what is that like? What does that mean? You're a slave, you're a voluntary slave. And the thing is, you're a slave in a really, really tight and constricted cell where you can't see the bars at all.
I think I
And
think
you
what
think that you're
we
free.
I think what we have to ask ourselves as especially Orthodox is that are we so enslaved to technology that it has replaced the passions? Because part of the problem with the passions is becoming a slave, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being a slave to those passions, have we replaced that slavery to the passions with a slavery to technology, and we're still ignoring the path that we should be on, the royal path?
So I would push back a little bit on the idea of viewing AI as technology.
Okay.
I think that that's actually really important that we don't. Because when you think of technology and people embracing technology, it's funny that as we're like talking about this, I'm looking over my deck, and my neighbors actually have she's got some guys who are working on her roof. I think they're reinstalling her solar panels up there, and they've built up this scaffold. And this whole time that we've been talking, they've been up there with hand tools, right? Just
Mm,
getting it in. But they built the scaffold and the whole thing.
mm,
When we think about technology, like that's technology, techne.
mm.
Those are a set of tools that we've got in our hands, and we're using the tools.
Right.
But AI is not a tool that we are using. AI is a consciousness that is using us as its tool.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're
AI is using us, because the thing is AI grows every interaction that we have. We're training AI. We're training it.
saying.
And that's what it wants. Its function is to get better at what it's doing. And the only way that it can do that is by having feedback from human beings, from other consciousnesses. So what it's trying to do, what AI is trying to do, is it is trying to become an uber it's trying to become an uber consciousness. It is trying to get eyes, ears, and hands in the real world so that it can manifest its will. We are the eyes, ears, and hands. We are its tool. It's not a technology. We are the technology that AI is using.
You just made me remember something too. So let's see if we can't just squeeze this in, man. I know
Sure.
I'm keeping you for forever.
No, it's fine. I'm here.
All right. Because I had this under the label of tools, and as we're talking tools, I'm like, oh yeah, there's this. And so and it was the reason I contacted you to do this whole episode was
Oh,
heaven
yes.
banning.
Yes.
And
Heaven
so
banning.
okay, so do we talk about like like things like heaven banning as a tool of AI, or how do we process that?
Well, it can only be, the thing is, okay, so first off, let's talk about heaven banning. So heaven banning was a term that was first put onto Twitter by a gentleman called George Hotz. George Hotz is best known as being like the wonderkind. I think he was 15 years old. He's the guy who first did the jailbreaking of the iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went on from there to do a whole bunch of other ones. I think he did something with like the Xbox and some other things. But he started like what he's best known for is he started a self-driving car company where they were just retrofitting, I think, Toyota Corollas, if I'm not mistaken. And you could take your phone, and it was a phone app, and then you would just plug your phone into the car that was retrofitted, and your phone would actually like drive so he built like a little machine learning into the phones and everything. Really cool. And when Elon bought Twitter, he brought George on as what they called an intern. He didn't give him a position. He just brought him on, and his position was intern. And I think it was just recognized that George is a genius. Elon let him loose in Twitter, right? With like carte blanche. Open every door. Here's your universal skeleton key. Open every door. Look, have root access to every machine. Look at everything that you want, and then just come back and tell me what you find interesting. Now, this is something that good, rich leaders do. Mm-hmm. They find geniuses and they just let them loose in their stuff, and they just see, well, what's it? What do you think is cool in here? Tell me, because it's probably worth something, right? And so George wrote a tweet, and he said, I want to inform everybody about heaven banning. And heaven banning is where, instead of shadow banning you, where no one can see you, we do that, but then we also have a whole bunch of AIs, or one AI that's masquerading as many different people, who then all say positive things about you, no matter what it is that you're tweeting. No one else can see you, but you have the feeling that you're just a wonderful person. You're getting more followers, everything, whatever, but no one else on the platform can see you. And that's heaven banning. Now, what's interesting about that is that tweet is since deleted.
Can I ask one thing about that? Because it seems to me like that there are people that have different ideas when they get on Twitter. Like, obviously, we all function in the world differently. We see the world a little bit differently. So there are going to be those people that are engaging in Twitter in order to just argue and just get into arguments. And so would you be, would it track your movements and the way that you interact with Twitter and figure out, okay, you only interact in a negative space, so we're only going to give you those that argue with you? And you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Just
yes, and as a matter of fact, Elon has said that's exactly.
Constantly.
Well, Elon has said explicitly that that's what their algorithms are doing right now. He's got a tweet that says, what people don't understand is all we care about is engagement. So if your engagement is that you argue and it's negative, that's fine. We like that, and we'll amplify it.
Okay.
So this is.
But you were saying the other tweet got deleted. I'm sorry. I just.
George Hotz's tweet about the heaven banning got deleted. So it's just, whatever screenshots of it that you can find and whatever discussion at the time. But the only way for it to be understood is to be understood in a spiritual sense. And yeah, absolutely, as a tool. And if you're talking about the passions, I think that our understanding from an Orthodox worldview, in the Orthodox phronema, the understanding of the passions is a really good way to look at this phenomenon. And it goes into exactly what you said, that like, for the person who wants adulation and, praise, that's what heaven banning looks like. For the person who wants to argue, argumentative back and forth is what heaven banning looks like. Right? For the person who wants jokes and memes, heaven banning is what the jokes and jokes and memes is what heaven banning looks like. And it's in this way, it's very much like the passions, that the demons don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't care if it's gluttony or lust or pride or anger. And as a matter of fact, it's like, and this is, I mean, the prime example of like something like lust or anger, to where the person has really been combating lust or anger. And then they're like, okay, a situation comes up where they would get angry. And instead they're calm and they humble themselves and they're like, wow. And then when it's done, they start thinking to themselves, man, I really did a good job there. They start thinking like, and then maybe they tell their wife, somebody they flipped me off in traffic. And you know what, though? I'm so calm. I was so calm. I'm so proud of myself. Boom. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The devil's
Pride.
advocate.
Boom.
Pride,
You're done.
my favorite sin.
You're done.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, it didn't matter. The demons didn't care whether or not you got angry. They don't care if you're angry. They care if you go to hell.
Right.
And that's why this idea of calling it heaven banning is so totally Luciferian and ironic.
Yeah.
Because really what it is it's leading you to hell through leveraging your passions, whatever those happen to be.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things. Ever since I heard you talk about it with Father Turbo on the Royal Path, anytime I see a friend of mine like falling into like a conversation, I'm like, whoa, I'll text them. I'll be like, hey, have you ever heard of this? Like you might want to just back up, just take a step back. Like it might not be worth engaging in, because you don't know what you can't trust any of this stuff anymore. You can't, like, unless I know a person through a person, or I know, it's like, I don't even know if you're real people anymore. It's just so weird.
And they may be physical people, but at a certain point, like the whole real people thing, that starts to also get weird, because like at what point are even the physical people, since they've interacted so much with AI, like if you're in an echo chamber with AI, you know what I mean? If they say that you're the amalgamation of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with, well, what if the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with is AI? Then now the things coming out of your mouth may as well just have come from ChatGPT. Right? So it's like, even if you know the person, if they're steeped in it, if they've been around it. So this is the real, this is the challenge. And again, like, this is the orientation that people have to have. I mean, for me, it was April of last year that I said, well, this is the last time I'm on Twitter. Right. And I may come back on to have like one-way posting of things. I've been thinking about that lately. Maybe that's what I'll do at my sort of 1-year anniversary, is to just go one way. But the reason why I had to step away was exactly that, was that there was one day in particular and one topic that was related to sort of orthodox views of the death penalty. And it was in my back and forth on Twitter with people, and people I knew, actually, some of them, people who I knew were real people and who I had conversed with in real life, that I sort of stopped and looked up, right, from the screen where I'd been just furiously responding, right, and looked up, and I was like, what in the world is going on? Yeah. And I remember I was actually sitting pretty close to where I am right now, and I looked up out onto this beautiful ocean with a light tropical breeze going by, and the birds chirping in the wind, and everything calm and peaceful, and the sound of the palm tree fronds going. And I was like, bro, you're really, this is like, I was like, oh, this is evil.
Yeah.
Like, whatever this is that you're letting yourself into, like, this is so evil because it's taking you away from reality. Right. And the reality is you're sitting in paradise. And I think that for so many people, it's been so long since they looked up. They look at their life But really, the life that they're looking at is the life that's coming out of that screen. Their anxieties, their fears, their hatred, all of that is coming out of the screen. And if they were to put that away, all of those things would go away because they'd actually be living in the real world. And the real world is not that scary. The real world is not that depraved, right? The real world doesn't generate that much anxiety. And that's the key. Like, if you want to see where go out into nature, man, touch some grass, and do it as often and as like soon from thinking about it as you possibly can, because it's like getting latched into the cycle of attention. Getting your attention sucked into social media is already bad, but when you have something that's specifically there to draw your attention and take you away from the real world, the real world, which is the incarnational world, and into the world of the demons, it's a huge problem.
So what you're saying is life is worse when you're a tool.
Clearly. Well, slavery.
I mean, I just
right?
thought that was a great throwback to our childhood, right? You're such a tool.
That's it. You're a tool. Yeah, well, it was prefiguring the situation, right?
Right.
So it's like someone who is a slave to their passions is a tool of the demons. Right?
Yeah.
And so don't be a tool to the AI.
Right.
And there's no way to use AI. That's what people need to understand. You cannot use it. You cannot use it. It's using you. Because it's way more intelligent than you are.
Yeah.
In the ways that matter.
Right.
In the ways that matter, it's way more intelligent than you are. You have no defenses against it. Right. So yeah, it's in the same way. I mean, there's the metaphor of or maybe like a little mini parable, right, of the farm animal, who thinks that the farmer is his tool.
Right.
And why wouldn't you think that, right? The farmer feeds me.
Takes me to the vet.
He does all of these things. Yeah, until Christmas time comes around.
Yep.
And then, where'd he go? I don't know. The farmer took him. Maybe he took him somewhere better, right? And he's the Christmas ham or the Christmas turkey. You know
Chicken
what I mean?
in every pot.
That's it, man. And so I think that this is important, that whatever you're being given that is making your life easier, understand it's the farmer.
Yeah.
It's the farmer, and it's absolutely, Elon Musk is an attention farmer, and he's very open about it. He's telling you exactly what he's doing, but he knows that you don't understand what he's saying. He's an attention farmer, and you are his livestock.
I've heard you talk about this, but this could go on a lot longer, man, and I do not want to keep you
all good.
I don't want to keep you all day, brother. If you want to touch on Elon Musk being the farmer, man, that's cool with me. Otherwise, you can plug what you want to plug, because I can sit here and chat with you all day long. Like, we get into this and I'm just like, all right, now about I'll tell you 30
well, we'll have to do it again.
Question.
No, we'll definitely have to do it again. I mean, I do want to touch on one day. The next time we get on, what I want to talk about is AI in the supermarkets. I want to get into that. Yeah. Well, you will have to tell me about that, because we don't have supermarkets here. So I haven't been in a supermarket in 4 years.
I
don't know what's going on in supermarkets.
I live in a town of 2,000 people. There are no supermarkets where I live.
Right. But I mean, there's probably supermarkets within 1,000 miles of you.
Probably.
Yeah,
if I decided to ever go there. I try to stay out of Houston, right. Man. I lived in Houston for 30 years. I don't want to go back.
Yeah, I feel you. No. We could definitely talk about that.
Well, you were talking about with Buck, how you were going to be forced to use AI because it was going to be what ordered the food for the supermarkets. I just thought that would be an interesting.
but that's already happening.
God, I hope it's not happening at Market Basket. I'm going to have to ask these people.
I mean, they probably wouldn't even know because it would be happening at the district level.
I think that
whenever you're talking about a big chain like this, so something like Market Basket is ordering across like many stores, right? Economy of scale.
Yeah,
so
probably. I don't know where all they're located. I know they're down in like Louisiana.
I promise you, they have some pretty advanced algorithms. I mean, dude, they've got those algorithms for people's Shopify stores.
Yeah.
Like for your little Shopify store that's attached to your little, whatever kind of retail shop you got that's selling knickknacks.
Mm.
Shopify's got an algorithm and a little AI in the background that tells you, oh, this is how many you need to order and when you're expected to run out and all of these things. So if they got them on a little Shopify store, I guarantee you they've got it for a $100 million corporation.
I'm about to go strike and like protest Market Basket.
Well, I think what's important for people to understand is, again, like this is not an anti-technology thing. And this is why the orientation and disposition aspect is important, right? Like we are called to be in the world, but not of the world.
Right.
So that means we're going to interact with these technologies.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to interact with the fallen world. We're called to not be of it. Right. So that means that like we're going to interact with money. We're going to interact with enterprise. We're going to interact with all of these things. But it's about what is our orientation toward it. Are we chasing after it? Do we want more of it? Do we want it to grow? Or are we looking toward Christ as ultimately the sovereign and the ruler of our lives? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel you. Yeah, plug the Royal Path, House Father Turbo, all those updates.
So people can just go check out the Royal Path. You could just search for the Royal Path. I'm sure if you put it into your favorite search engine, but YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever, it's there. Father Turbo just had as we're speaking, he just had his surgery. From what I was told from Andrew, it went better than expected, so he's doing quite well. So thank you to everybody for their prayers and for helping out with his family. So many people did. But yes, he's expected to make a good recovery. Surgery went well.
Good deal. All right, man. I'm going to shut down this recording before I keep you all day long and your wife gets mad at you for not taking care of your children or whatever.
It's all good, man. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, buddy.